two genders, male and female.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's common sense, and that's smart, and that's what Americans want. We don't want 70 different genders, okay? Because there aren't. So quit gaslighting us. Quit trying to, and if you don't recognize the, 70 different genders or whatever, then you're some kind of a bigot. And I think the election of Donald Trump is people had a chance to react to that notion that you're a bigot if you don't accept all this liberal garbage on gender identity and all this stuff, and that you're some kind of a Nazi. They throw that around.
Well, to your point, and again, I'm with Wesley. We probably do need to move on to some of these stories, but just to highlight the fact that most people in this country do not want men playing in girls' sports. Seth Moulton, who's a congressman from Massachusetts, over the last week, I think, said, I don't want my daughter playing on a field and getting run over by a guy who says he's a girl.
Mm-hmm.
And he said,
is he a Democrat?
He's a Democrat. He said, the fact that I was afraid to say that or was intimidated into saying that means that this has got to stop.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the vast majority of people. No, I don't know anybody personally. There's certainly nobody in the Christian conservative movement who wants to go back to the days when young gay men were being their heads shoved in toilets. All right, that kind of abuse. Nobody wants that.
No.
All right, but that doesn't.
That's not happening, though.
And it's not happening.
Right.
It happened when I was growing up.
Right.
But what we're concerned with are these kind of common sense things, and if you don't fall in line with the LGBTQ community, you're a bigot and a Nazi.
Putting women's products in boys' restrooms.
Yes.
Like they did in Minnesota. Like that Waltz, is that his name?
Tim Walz.
The governor there. That's the kind of person we were close to electing.
Yeah.
Who think like that. So anyway.
Yeah, good news.
President Trump is just issuing executive orders. With the federal government will only recognize male and female.
Yep. And
he's ending DEI. I mean, somebody said he's in Hulk mode. Was that you, Ed?
That was me.
Yeah, that was good.
Hulk mode.
He's in full Hulk mode. All right, you're listening to today's issues on American Family Radio. Next story, Fred.
Well, as we've noted, Trump is a man of his word. During the election campaign, since the election, and in his inaugural address the other day, he reminded people one of his big priorities is the deporting of people, millions who are in this country illegally. His borders are. Tom Homan was on Fox and Friends. We'll hear from him in just a second. He said already in the last 48 hours, more than 700 people in the country illegally have been picked up. This is part of the operation. They said this was going to begin right away, and it is. Now, Trump is also facing opposition to this, including the Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays, who says her state will not cooperate with this federal deportation program. Cut 9.
I also will not have any part of and will fight the attempt to set up what I believe are essentially concentration camps and family separation camps in the state of Arizona.
Concentration camps. That was a selected word. As I say, Tom Homan responded to this morning on Fox and Friends. Cut 10.
Look, I find it strange that the Attorney General from Arizona makes such statements because there was a lawsuit in Arizona a few years ago, the Show Me Your Papers a lawsuit in highest courts in the land that said immigration enforcement is a federal responsibility. Federal responsibility. She has no say in the matter. And look, I've said many times, we said right out of the gate, Lawrence, right out of the gate, we're going to concentrate on public safety threats. So she's saying that she doesn't want public safety threats out of her community. I also am insulted by the term concentration camps. Are you serious? Yeah. You're comparing ICE agents. We just lost a Border Patrol agent to a shooting up in Vermont yesterday, and they're the Gestapo. Are you serious? Concentration camps? ICE has detention centers. They have the best standards in the entire industry. I'll compare ICE detention standards to any state or federal facility or any county facility in the entire world.
Yeah, see, there. Who was it? Reagan said of Mondale or somebody. There you go again.
Yeah, it was might have been Carter.
Might have been Carter. There you go again. See, that's what this Attorney General from Arizona. She said She says she considers them concentration camps that Trump and
Yeah, the detention centers.
are concentration camps.
Yeah.
See, they're-
Which were the same ones used by the former president and the one before that,
Yeah,
which would also include the Democrat presidents before that.
yeah.
that's a good point.
I mean,
I know.
There's
just-
nothing new here on that sense.
With their kids in cages. If it's a Republican president,
Yeah,
if it's
that's-
not a Republican president, the same thing that may happen is detention.
Yeah.
So listen, here's I just want to express what I think is going to happen. My
Share
heart.
your
I'm going to share my
Tim.
heart. Ed.
Share your
I'm gonna
heart.
share my heart. That's what Christians do. We share our hearts. We're not rounding up millions of people in this country.
yeah,
This is my
Sorry.
This is my opinion. I don't have factual information to back it up because it hasn't happened yet. I'm just going to tell you what I think is going to happen, which is going to be a good thing. First of all, the emphasis on shutting down the border is going to be strong and swift by the Trump administration in every respect. So I think everything that he can do, he will do to stop the border, stop this. It's probably already stopping right now because when word gets back to Mexico City or Guatemala or Beijing, where all these people are coming from around the world, it's been a cottage industry, right? Coming from around the world. The word is going to get back to them. You pay $3,000 to go to America, and guess what? You get there and you can't get in. Well,
Because there's weight in Mexico.
that's going to stop the influx.
Right.
Okay, at least to the degree that we've been seeing it the last 4 years under Biden's y'all come policy. So, but what I do think is going to happen is they're going to crack down on the gangs, the Venezuelan gangs we've heard so much about, and other illegal enterprises here. Yeah, I say enterprise. I don't know if that's the right word. Of criminal activity that are because of illegal immigration.
Yeah.
You see
Right.
what I'm saying? And I don't. But as far, again, this is my opinion. All right, I don't think you're going to see millions of people quote rounded up and sent back to their home countries. That ship sailed. People and Americans wouldn't put up with it anyway. Americans are bipolar on this.
Right.
Okay, I'm bipolar. In other words, by that, well, I mean, we don't want to see. Well, do you know what I'm trying to say
no,
here? Can you help me share my heart?
Yeah, I think what we're all saying is you get rid of the criminals
Or lock them up, or
lock them up, or you institute policies that will result in self-deportation. So
Okay, there you go.
if you say your kids aren't going to be educated,
Right.
you're not going to get free stuff, you're not going to get EBT
Right.
cards,
All that.
So then they start going home on their own. Or I'm in favor of, I've mentioned, you give them a stipend. We'll give you $2,000 a piece to make your way back to your home, give you at least a start on a new life. We're encouraging you to go, okay? But nobody's going to want to see images of ICE agents busting into houses and dragging, screaming, crying people and children and loading them in a van.
That's what I'm saying.
Nobody wants to see that. The American
I don't
people
think you
are
have-
too compassionate and too merciful to see that kind of thing happen.
But those things you just mentioned, all those self-deportation encouragements or incentives, I think will happen. So I'm just saying, you're not going to see millions of people rounded up, but you're going to see a stop of illegal immigration into America, almost at a trickle. It's going to become a trickle.
Yeah.
And the ICE and others are going to crack down on the criminal activity in this country. I do think those things are going to happen.
Yeah.
And so, you're not going to see any kind of pathway to citizenship talk either. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Not going to see that. So those things are going to happen. But what you described, I don't think is going to happen because I don't think people want to see that.
It'd be all over social media.
Yeah.
and screaming kids tug at people's hearts.
Yeah.
We are a compassionate nation.
You're listening to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. Well, joining us now is Jenna Ellis. Jenna is host of Jenna Ellis in the Morning, right here on American Family Radio, and host of On Demand, a podcast here on American Family Radio that Jenna hosts, that you can access by going to our website, afr.net, click on the podcast, and you can listen to Jenna's podcast as she goes more in depth on topics than she's able to on the 1 hour show each morning here on American Family Radio. Good morning, Jenna.
Good morning. And speaking of On Demand, I have Daniel Horowitz from The Blaze, who's the host of the CR podcast for this Friday. And it's going to be an amazing conversation about generational and enduring wins. And I'm very excited for that because as you've been talking about today on your show and as I've been talking about, there's so much that the American people are excited for with this Trump mandate. But as we saw, Trump in the first 8 hours reversed so many of Biden's executive orders that we need to make sure that the good things that the Trump administration does in this next 4 years can't just be reversed again by another incoming administration. So
that's a good point.
This Friday On Demand, and it's going to be a great conversation. I really respect Daniel Horowitz. He's a great guest.
Oh, absolutely. And I do think, and you're a constitutional lawyer, Jenna, I do think the whole executive order thing has just got out of control. But the problem started with the Democrats. And you remember Barack Obama couldn't get anything done.
His phone and his pen.
Yeah, he said. Well, he said I got a phone and a pen. When he couldn't get anything done legislatively, at least not what he thought should be done, which has been the way since George W. Bush was in office. I mean, it's hard to get legislation passed when you have a divided Congress, and
right.
that's the way our founders set it up. So Obama got frustrated and said, "I got a phone and a pen. I'll just bypass Congress." That's what he was saying with executive orders, and he tried to do that, and he did that some. And then Biden just went crazy with them. So anything that Trump does basically is reversals of what was started with executive orders. Jenna, I wanted to ask you real quickly, what a story that got about 24 hours play, if it got that much, in some media, but not much. What Joe Biden did on the last 15 minutes in office, and that was pardon like 5 or 6 members of his family from any kind of subsequent investigation that may lead to criminal charges. What did I describe that right? And what was that all about?
Yeah, so they're technically called preemptive pardons, and this is when there's not even an investigation that's going on. It's retroactive in the sense that it can't be for future conduct, but it can go back even years. The one that he gave to Anthony Fauci, interestingly, went back to January of 2014. So you got to wonder what exactly he was doing back then that Biden would want to pardon him for and basically insulate him from any sort of legal consequences. And this has never really been litigated at the Supreme Court, but it does have legal precedent because we remember that Ford pardoned Nixon on his way out of office, so nobody ever really followed up and questioned that. But it really boils down to the question of justice and whether this is an abuse of the pardon authority, because clearly the founders did not intend pardons to be used for political purposes or to insulate yourself or your family from future responsibility and accountability through either civil or criminal liability. But that's exactly what's going on. And the question could even be raised if some of Trump's pardons are that he did in the first days are politically motivated as well. But really, when you look at what Biden did in his final acts for his own family, well, I don't think that a Supreme Court is going to interpret Article 2, which grants very broad pardon power to the executive branch, that they would say that those pardons are legally invalid. I think the question for the American people needs to be raised: what kind of executive do we want? Because if we're really returning to law and order and a true moral sense of justice, then these types of powers should not be used for personal or political gain.
Yes. So, but basically, everybody looking at this saw was that James Comer, I believe is his name, the Republican representative who was investigating all the money that the Biden family made from foreign entities and influence peddling and all that. We know the story of Hunter Biden making all that money from Ukrainian energy companies when he had no experience in that, just to buy influence with his then vice president dad. So we all saw that. So what Joe Biden said was, hey, I'm going to shut down any more attempts to get to the bottom of this by pardoning them all from when they hadn't even been charged with crimes. That's the other part I don't understand is how can you be pardoned from crimes you haven't even been charged with? That's just bizarre to me.
Right.
Go
It
ahead.
seems to me more like a confession.
Well, yeah.
Well, and that's exactly right. It's like, why do you need a pardon if you really haven't committed any sort of criminal activity? And of course, Biden and his spokespeople said, well, this is to prevent, the Trump administration from coming after their political opponents, because wouldn't that be a horrible thing to do? And saying that with a straight face, and Adam Schiff, who was actually a recipient of one of those pardons, saying that with a straight face and condemning some of the Trump pardons is just the bottom of the barrel of the scum of hypocrisy. And it's utterly disgusting and despicable. But that's really what it is. And we remember the Hunter Biden pardon, even though he was charged and convicted out of D.C. and Delaware, that pardon extended back 11 years for conduct that wasn't even yet investigated. So these preemptive pardons are not anything new. The difficulty with challenging their validity is who exactly would have standing. Certainly it wouldn't just be you or I or the American people writ large, because there's a lot of case law on that, especially for challenging, for example, broad laws or taxes or things like that we just generally object to. So that's really going to be the difficulty of standing in some of these cases.
You know what? I here's what I expect to happen, and it may not happen. I've been wrong. This is I've been wrong 7 times in my life. No 8.
Enough to be able to keep.
Well, my bad 8. I remember another one that I didn't count.
7's the number of perfection, though.
Well,
so you should stop right there and just
stop
say
right
you were
there.
perfectly wrong.
Okay. I think this is the new normal. I think when President Trump leaves office, he's going to have a slew of people that he's going to say, I'm going to pardon. Because
But is there hold on? But that doesn't mean that he's going to misuse it necessarily. I would say that Biden's misusing this.
Well, he certainly set a record. I'm looking at an Axios article.
I mean,
Joe Biden has issued 4.2 thousand pardons and commutations. The closest is Barack Obama with 1.9 thousand.
What I'm saying, yes, thank you for that. What I'm saying is the act of pardoning someone is not unlawful or unconstitutional.
okay, the Democrats started this again. Once again, the Democrats started this. I'm just saying, and I could be wrong. If you're President Trump, when you leave office, this is projecting way out. I shouldn't even be talking about this, except to say, I think it is going to become the new normal for presidents to protect. In their mind, they're going to be protecting their families and their friends from any investigations, and so they're just going to. Trump's going to say, "Hey, Biden did it. You didn't say anything." You think that's going to happen?
Right. Well, 100%. And I think we're already seeing that because Trump doesn't have another election left, and so while he could have on his way out of his first term pardon, for example, the J6ers, he did that his first day in office this time, which is a huge departure from the typical norm, which is to use the pardons kind of on your way out of office, which the Constitution, by the way, doesn't prescribe. And I think that we do need to get back as a whole to this idea that pardon power should be used very, very minimally and only when justice requires, not for these political purposes. But I think you're absolutely right that this has become the new norm. And I wouldn't be surprised if Trump continued to use this, even throughout his entire term, because he didn't have another election left. So what does it matter to him?
Right.
And if he's still under Biden's threshold, or even if he's not, his attitude is probably who cares.
Right. No, I agree with that. Hey, Jenna, so your interview with Daniel Horowitz is going to be when?
It will drop Friday morning, so look for that on AFR.net under the podcast tab. It's every Friday on demand.
On Demand with Jenna Ellis, Daniel Horowitz, excellent guests. That'll be Friday. That'll drop. Go to afr.net, click on podcast, and you can check out all our shows there. We'll be back momentarily.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
The American Family Association, informing, equipping, and activating to transform American culture.
Jesus commissioned his disciples to make disciples, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything Jesus commanded them.
We at the American Family Association seek to aid the church in our Great Commission.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. The debate still rolls on regarding the future of TikTok in the U.S. after the Supreme Court upheld a federal ban of the video sharing app last week. President Trump signed an executive order on Monday to delay the ban for 75 days. Ohio Republican Senator John Husted says he personally does not have TikTok due to national security concerns, but is hopeful the app can be bought by an American company.
Perhaps President Trump can come in and negotiate a sale that would lead to American ownership of TikTok, but as long as it's owned by the Chinese Communist Party, essentially, I'm not in favor of it.
Panama is already taking their complaints about President Trump to the United Nations.
Panama is now talking with leaders at the UN about what they say is concerning language from U.S. President Donald Trump regarding his expressed desire to retake the Panama Canal. In a letter sent to UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, Panama's government wants the UN Security Council to involve itself, suggesting President Trump is violating the UN Charter rule about members threatening force against territorial integrity. President Trump routinely criticizes Panama for allowing China-based companies to operate the canal, a key Western Hemisphere waterway. Eben Brown, Fox News.
House Republicans speak to reporters on Capitol Hill as President Trump begins his second term. Michigan Republican Congresswoman Lisa McClain praises the president, delivering on issues he vowed to resolve during his campaign.
Promises to secure the border and unleash American energy and drain the swamp. Promises made, promises kept.
And House Majority Whip Tom Emmer of Minnesota praises the president, getting off to a quick start.
In one day, President Trump did more for the American people than Joe Biden did in 4 years. Some of us would argue more than he did for the American public in 50 years.
We are learning more about the life of the Border Patrol agent killed in the line of duty in Vermont. Therese Crowley has more.
44-year-old David Chris Malin being called an exceptional person by his aunt. The Minnesota native who went by Chris killed on a traffic stop on I-91 in Coventry. Chris, seen smiling in a snowy photo, was also a canine handler, a military veteran who worked security at the Pentagon during the time of the 9/11 attack. His family describing a devoted agent who served with honor and bravery. 9 years with the Air Force, 15 in the federal government, including the Texas border before joining the Swanton sector, covering Vermont, New Hampshire, New York. His Aunt Joan says he was about to make a marriage proposal. The family says he truly embodied service over self. The suspect, a German national, is dead. Another suspect in custody. Therese Crowley, Fox News.
A third-grade elementary teacher in Illinois hit a roadblock from concerned parents when she tried to launch an affinity club for fifth graders to discuss LGBTQ issues. Bob Kellogg has more.
Writing for Breakthrough Ideas, Lori Higgins reports Moira Jataho wants to reach out to students who may be questioning their gender or sexual identity. Parents were sent a letter giving them less than a week to respond that their child would not be participating.
This will be an anonymous group of students who will have to keep confidential whatever takes place in the group. That's completely inappropriate for minor students in a publicly subsidized school. They should not be asked to keep anything confidential.
The administration announced that the club is being put on hold to make sure the club aligns with their values, but Higgins believes it was public outrage that put the brakes on this.
But since they stopped it so quickly, that tells me that there was a lot of intense opposition. And so if the community keeps on them and perseveres, they have a chance of keeping it out of the elementary school.
Higgins believes a third-grade teacher has no business teaching students at such a young age about sensitive sexual matters they can't fully understand anyway. I'm Bob Kellogg.
The major winter storm that slammed Texas and blanketed the northern Gulf Coast with record-breaking snow moved east today, spreading heavy snow, sleet, and freezing rain across parts of the Florida Panhandle, Georgia, and eastern Carolinas. New Orleans set a record for snowfall Tuesday with nearly 10 inches. For American Family News, I'm Rusty P.
Interested in seminary but don't think it will work in this season in life? Wesley Biblical Seminary offers flexible options that allow you to take classes live, no matter where you are. At WBS, we don't just educate people, we develop trusted leaders for faithful churches. It's time for you to respond to the calling God has on your life. Take classes from an institution that you can trust for a calling that will not go away. Learn more about your opportunities at wbs.edu. That's wbs.edu.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildmon, president of the American Family Association.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Tim, Ed, Wesley, and now Steve Polka Dot Jordahl joins us.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning,
everybody.
Polka Dot.
Hey there, brown shirt. Oh no,
Yeah,
that's probably not what I wanted.
Good morning, Steve.
Hey,
how you doing, bro?
I'm good. I've been sneezing this morning. Got a little bit of a head cold, I guess.
Thanks for sharing that with me.
Well, I was going to say,
you're 2 feet away.
This is why I'm saying it, because if there's a little yellow button in the studio here, folks, that I can. It's called a cough button, and Ed just used it.
Yes.
But it's not called the sneeze button. So am I allowed to push it if I sneeze? Is that okay?
No, yeah, but you also turn away.
Yes.
Yes,
I was going to say
Turn away.
sneezing is a whole different thing. You can cough into your elbow kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
sneeze, you need to turn away. Don't turn toward Brent, our producer, either. He don't want it either. Whatever it is you got.
And
I don't have anything. It just
here's the problem with the sneeze.
Yeah.
You use your right hand to press the button, but you turn away from Tim. You have no way of controlling where the spray goes.
Yeah, we're in a super spreader room.
We are.
I'll tell you that right now. Another thing I would say, Steve, is you could have done the responsible thing, got the sneeze vaccine. Okay, it was available. But yet you had some kind of conspiracy.
Yeah, I know.
It was going to cause you.
And you get that vaccine, you can't get it, and you can't spread it.
No,
I'm not even sure what virus we're talking about.
Oh, look, call Walgreens or wherever you go and say, I want the sneeze vaccine.
Sneeze vaccine. That's what I'll do. Absolutely.
All right. By the way, a belated on my part, because I'm a big college football fan. It's my favorite sport. I like all college sports: basketball, baseball, football. I really like watching college football. And Ohio State Buckeyes. We have a lot of folks who live in Ohio. People who live out of Ohio who are from the Buckeye State, and they won the national championship. Did y'all already talk about this at all?
I mentioned it on Monday, but it was inauguration day, so we didn't spend a lot of time.
If you mentioned it on Monday, we didn't know that it was Monday night, so you couldn't have did we mention it yesterday.
It was yesterday, I guess. Yeah.
But it was the 9th national championship for the Buckeyes, and Notre Dame had a great season. Anytime you can make it to the championship game, you've had a great season. They had the Notre Dame had a great season,
and they in the second half made it respectable. But Ohio State was just a dominant team.
Best team money can buy in college.
I'm afraid college sports is going in that direction.
I don't mean that in a derogatory sense, because every team.
You mean that in a literal sense?
College athletics now has become a little, professional ball.
Yeah,
it's minor league.
It's minor league professional ball, for better or for worse. But anyway.
Although there was nothing minor league about Ohio State's team, as you said, they could beat some NFL teams.
Oh
They're good.
Well, their team speed is unbelievable. You could see it on the field, and you're talking about Notre Dame, which has great athletes, and yet Ohio State's like doubled up on them.
Mm-hmm.
But they doubled up on every team almost.
So I did a story earlier this year about a revival at Ohio State. The football team was leading it. Tons of young men who became Christians on that team.
Oh, okay.
Very evangelical.
That's
team.
great to hear.
It is. It really was a fun story to do. But I'm wondering if there's some theological implications. Do the Protestants just beat the Catholics? I'm not sure if that.
Oh, that's
well, if
true.
you want to bring that up, you go right ahead, Steve. We have a
over
lot
to
of
you,
Catholic,
Ed.
lot of Catholic listeners.
And we'll just sit back, right?
Well, we'll say this as far as recruiting goes. Ohio State has a great situation.
Yeah.
Because Ohio is one of the largest states in the country. They have phenomenal high school football. And guess what? They're the only game in town.
Yep.
So if you grew up in Ohio, you grew up a Buckeye fan.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And so it's it's built in,
Yep.
right? It's built in that they're going to have a great team almost every year. And then that cathedral they have up there in Columbus that they play in.
Yes.
is like, one of the most intimidating places to play in the country. So, all right, congratulations to the Buckeyes. What's your first story, Steve?
Well, I want to congratulate President Trump. Only 48 hours in office, and he's already solved global warming.
So he has some team speed too.
Yeah.
Huh?
He knows.
See how I did what I did
Yeah,
there?
listen,
Yeah.
they are getting after it. I mean, they're getting a lot of stuff done in the first couple of days, and I don't think that pace is going to slow.
Go.
Okay, let's talk about a couple. I want to talk about the executive order that overturned, or it pretends to overturn, birthright citizenship. So the way that most people understand it is if you are born in the United States, you are a U.S. citizen. Certainly, if your parents are American and you're born here, you're born a citizen. If your parents are legal residents, permanent residents, you're born here. Law has held that you are a citizen. But it's also been taken. We've heard the term anchor babies, where women will come across the border just to have the baby, just so that they can have a citizen, and then they can follow that citizen into the country later on. And so President Trump is overturning this. What he's saying is the 14th Amendment, which is what grants birthright citizenship, it has two clauses. The first clause is anyone born in the United States is a citizen. But the second clause says, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Subject to the laws and jurisdictions thereof. So that's what President Trump is saying, is that illegal immigrants, or anybody that's in this country on a little short-term basis, still has allegiances to their government back home. They're voting back home, or they're just here for a visit or whatever. They don't qualify under that second clause because they're not subject to the laws of the United States. They're not becoming citizens. They're not, bringing their whole life here, so they are not. He says they're not citizens. This is going to end up before the Supreme Court, and this 14th Amendment was originally written so that the children of slaves were guaranteed to be granted citizenship.
Right. 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments passed in the wake of the Union victory in the Civil War. So, this is going to wind up in the Supreme Court. And my own personal belief, I am not an attorney, and in a lot of ways, these kinds of arguments they're certainly above my pay grade. But we are all encouraged to read the Constitution, try to understand it the best we can. I think the president is going to have a hard time winning with that argument, simply because I think the courts in the past, when the issue, when states, for example, have passed laws saying if you're here illegally, you can't get welfare. You have no right to education. Those kinds of cases the decisions have usually come down on the side of, if you are in the United States, you're subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. But this, to President Trump's credit, you got to go here. You've got to try to make the legal case for these efforts at removing people who have come here illegally. And so we'll see. We'll see how this plays out.
Yeah, it is one of the more contentious. He flooded the zone with this, right? 200 orders, 200 executive orders in the first couple days. If you were a Democrat or an opponent of President Trump, how are you going to coordinate an attack on that? Is it like, okay, let's get 200 Democrats and each one pick one, and no one's going to listen to 200 Democrats, each one having they have to pick and choose. This is the same way he did when he announced the appointments to his cabinet. Bam, 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 bam. They didn't have enough time for anybody to react.
Yeah, and if they did, they picked one.
Yeah.
Right.
And they
then
weren't
the
able
rest
to-
of them went undercover.
Sure.
Yeah, so and he has pledged, by the way, with this birthright citizenship thing, he has pledged that, or he said that anybody who has already been granted citizenship under the 14th Amendment, he's not going to take it away.
Right.
This is going going forward. There is another executive order that he signed that I think you guys would be very happy to hear. The State Department has implemented a landmark one flag policy on Monday. It's not an executive order. I think it's just a State Department policy, barring U.S. outposts at home and abroad from flying any other flag but the Stars and Stripes. The reason they did this because there's been a little controversy that our embassies have flown rainbow flags or BLM flags. That's going to stop. It's going to be just the American flag and maybe the Christian flag. Nope, not even that.
That's one of the things that he brings to the table from day one all the way back to his first term in running in 2015 and being elected in 2016 is that he does put America first. And when you unify around a flag or unify around putting your citizens first from a border standpoint, from protecting the border, that way the American citizens are protected potentially from terrorism. Like putting America first has always been something that he has not only said but done. And when you do things like this, you got to think that it's that much more of those that were maybe on the fence, or I don't know. I guess what I'm getting at is how can you not unify behind that? Even now, obviously, you have some that are so far left that don't care. But
well, I think what you're saying, Wesley, and I agree, is that there's nothing we have in common in this country except for an idea, which is the Constitution and our form of government. We don't have a common race. There's black people. There's all kinds of races. We don't have a common language. We don't even have a common culture. Ed, you know, and I know this from moving down here to the South.
English is our common language.
Well, but
it depends on what part of the country and how they speak English.
Well, that's true. No, not only, but that's not true because, I'm sorry, that it is the common language, but it's not. There are large pockets of people who don't speak English,
like
or
Chinatown.
especially at home at all. I mean, this country is only united really behind the idea of democracy and the Constitution, and so. When you put a flag up there, I think that is what we unite around. That's the idea.
Because the other way, the alternative was more divisive. When you start putting up, would you consider BLM a political flag? I don't know how you would consider that, but anyways, the idea. When you put up a political image, and it's behind the government, or government's behind putting it up, that's divisive. Obviously, and I think
yes, and that's one of the reasons that the Democrats lost the election, is because of the racial and divisiveness that they've brought to the country. Even though they're the ones who claim Trump and the Republicans are the ones who are racist.
Right.
I think they so overplayed their hand by Boy That Cried Wolf stuff that there was a rapper who attended the inauguration. Was it Nelly?
Yeah.
Okay. He's a very famous rapper.
From my time.
Okay.
90s.
90s. A very famous rapper. Nelly is his name. And,
Nelly is his name, Oh, so I'm sorry. I got that wrong. I got the wrong
I
song.
was trying to make a serious point.
Yes,
Ed.
I know. I've been clowning around the whole day.
Well,
All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Make
anyway, we're trying to have a serious show.
Yes,
here.
I recant.
Okay. Let's act like adults, can we?
Okay.
All right, so
that's not going to age well.
This rapper said he was criticized for attending the inauguration and singing, rapping, and he said, "Listen, this is a time of celebration in our country. It doesn't matter whether it's Republican or Democrat. I would go and sing if I was invited," which is, I guess, what Carrie Underwood said.
Right.
But he was saying that I don't know why am I talking about this? What was your point?
I don't know. We're talking about what we have in common.
We can, what we have
common.
in common.
Okay, yeah, that's what he was saying was I know what he was saying. He says people say Donald Trump is a white nationalist or a white supremacist. He said, show me where he's ever been a white supremacist.
Yeah.
This was a black rapper, very popular gentleman by the name of Nelly, saying that what he was saying was, nobody's buying that except the far lefties anymore. People even who are liberals or Democrats aren't buying the racist bit anymore. We're tired of hearing it. And life for people of color in America is not going to change for the worse because Donald Trump's in the White House.
What he said, I have the quote for what he
from Nelly.
Yeah, what Nelly is saying in responding. He says this quote, "But what will I say? But what I will say about it is that I respect the office." He's talking about the office for president.
Right.
This isn't politics. The politics is for me is over. He won. He's the president. He's the commander in chief. What I would like to say is that this is the best country in the world. And he went on to discuss how his dad served in the Air Force. And he said, if these people can give their lives for the office, Nelly can perform. It is an honor.
Person.
It is an yes. It is an honor for me to perform for President of the United States, regardless of who is in office.
Right.
I think that is a great way of putting it.
Is that where he also goes on to say they say he's a white supremacist? But I haven't ever seen any evidence of that. Talking about Nelly.
Yeah, I'm trying to find.
Anyway, he went on to say that basically, and I think he's saying, look at the. President Trump got I think got a highest percentage of vote among African Americans ever by a Republican president, and same thing for Hispanics.
He actually won a majority of Hispanics.
Did he really?
I think so.
So they're going to have to come up with a new accusation that's going to be more plausible than
the people they're targeting with those kinds of accusations.
Not working
it's
anymore.
Not working. They're not buying it.
Yep.
Yeah, because that's the card that the Democrats play a lot is, hey, you got to vote for us or these white supremacist Republicans are going to send you. Biden said they're going to put you back in chains.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Right.
So it's kind of like the Democrats do with Social Security, scaring old folks. Hey, you vote for the Republicans, there goes your Social Security. With the blacks and the brown folks and the people, quote, of color in this country, Democrats say, hey, you vote for the Republicans, there goes your freedoms. Biden said they're going to put you back in chains. And I think black folks and brown folks and other minorities are going, wait a minute, that's nuts.
Well, they are now because what we have is a decade of that messaging, maybe more, but at least I'm speaking during my lifetime. I'm 35, so I've noticed it over the last 10 or 15 years, that being the message.
What being the message?
The message of sensationalizing things, making things emotional, identity politics,
scaring people by saying Trump.
Here's what's going to happen in the event he gets elected.
Yeah.
So I've been seeing that for a decade, and at first they're so persuasive on the emotional side of things that you get the reaction that you got when you get an Obama or you get a Democrat president. But the point I'm getting at is after a decade of them saying, let's use the analogy, the sky's falling, and it doesn't fall.
Right.
Then
you don't go back and change,
or they don't all the
scare tactics
they have, when you have a decade of it not happening, that's where you do get, okay. Like, for example, over the break, we were talking about like a burger fell. Once they got that, again, we all disagree
It's
with it.
the gay marriage Supreme Court ruling.
Right. Once they've gotten that, at this point, they can't use it. That's all. That's what they wanted. They got it.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I don't like it anymore. Hopefully, in our lifetime, we see it overturned. But the point is that that community can't say that they are being held back from anything. No, they can. My point is, they can do everything that anyone else can do,
especially for this identity politics for blacks and Hispanics. Trump was president for 4 years.
Yeah.
Nobody got put back in chains.
Yep.
So you'd say that long enough and it doesn't happen, then you go, well, wait a second.
You start losing. You're going to lose a lot of your. Hey, think about this, though.
Let me just say one thing about the Obergefell decision. Should anyone question this, our position here at American Family Association is that the Supreme Court got it wrong.
Yes.
On same-sex marriage, homosexual marriage, and that the issue was working fine at the state level.
Mm-hmm.
And many, many states had passed marriage protection amendments to define marriages between a man and a woman. And what the Supreme Court did is came in and said, we're wiping away all those states' decisions. We're going to say it's homosexual marriage is lawful in every state in the union. That's where our disagreement came on Obergefell. Now, morally speaking, that's the legal answer.
Sure.
Morally speaking, the Bible's, the Christian teaching, teaching in religions all over the world, not just Christianity, Judaism, Islam. They've never recognized same-sex marriage. That's ridiculous.
It's unnatural
immoral and unnatural.
Our argument is that it's not marriage. I don't care what the Supreme Court ruled.
It's not.
It's not marriage. Marriage is the joining of the two opposite genders, the two distinct genders. You can make this a biological case. The joining of two becoming one flesh for the purpose of procreation. And so it would be just as ludicrous if the Supreme Court had ruled in 2015, you know what, it's unfair, it's unequal for women to always have the right to get pregnant and have babies. So we are now declaring that men can get pregnant and have babies. And you go, wait a second, it doesn't matter if you're declaring it, it's not biologically true.
Right.
And that's part of the argument.
Sometimes I feel like I throw a grenade in the middle of this thing and just watch back and sit back and watch.
Yeah, we're not without opinions here, Steve. And if you get us riled up, there's no telling where we're going to go.
Right?
Hey, real quick, do you know? Have you heard? I'm looking forward to hearing from Caroline Leavitt.
Mm-hmm.
Is that her name?
That's exactly how you pronounce it.
She's 27 years old, and she's President Trump's new press secretary.
Yep.
And she becomes the youngest person to hold a coveted position. Has she had a press conference yet? Do you know?
Not in the. I don't believe she's had one in
I've
the
seen her
press
interview,
room.
but
she's been doing interviews.
She's been doing interviews. I don't think she's had her first
official.
Do you guys remember the first day in 2017 of the Donald Trump era? His first press conference. It was. It might have been. I don't remember.
Sean Spicer.
Sean
how big
Spicer.
the crowd was for the inauguration.
He came out. Well, he came out, and he said he kind of laid down the law. This is how I knew it was going to be a different administration. He said, "This is how it's going to work. You're going to ask questions. We're not going to take these kind of things." And then he left. It was like,
I remember that.
That was weird.
I remember that. Well, he was also going out there to complain about the size of the crowd. That the media was saying that Trump's crowd wasn't as big as Obama's crowd, and it was anyway.
Yeah.
It was a waste of time, in my opinion. But anyway, I'm looking forward to hearing from Caroline Leavitt because she's 27.
Yeah.
And she's going to be the Kayleigh McEnany and Sarah
Huckabee Sanders.
Yeah, she's doing their job.
Let me just tell you that you'll notice a difference when she stands up there as opposed to what you've been seeing the last 4 years.
No binder.
No, well, she'll probably have a binder, but she won't read verbatim from it.
But I just can't imagine it, her going to her 10-year class reunion.
I know, right?
In high school. Hey, what's everybody doing for a job? Well, I'm working down at the factory.
Bill, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no, nothing's wrong with that. What are you doing, Sam? I'm a plumber. Nothing wrong with that. What are you doing, Caroline? I'm the White House press secretary. After that, nobody wants to say what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's extraordinary. 27 years old.
27 years old.
And she, no matter how inexperienced she may be, she'll be better.
Well, I got to think she's going to be dynamite if Trump picked her and she's that young.
My pet poodle could stand up there and be better than what we've been seeing the last time.
All right. Well, all right. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.